Tonight, G5 governors storm Ibadan for the kickoff of the state-level campaign of the PDP, urge voters to re-elect Governor Makinde but keep mum on their preferred presidential candidate in next month's election. Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi asks Nigerians to resist the influence of money and shun ethnic and religious sentiments in their choice of the nation's next president during his campaign in Ekiti State. APC presidential candidate promises to empower youth in the country to become employers of labor, dismisses endorsement of the Labour Party's candidate by former President Obasanjo.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank says it is working on a policy framework to regulate cryptocurrencies transaction in the country.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria Football Federation President Ibrahim Gusau defends the abridged format of this season's Premier League, where clubs received 10 million naira each as take-off grants.
From Abuja, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit warns that 3 years imprisonment awaits government officials who make cash withdrawals from all federal, state and local government public accounts effective March the 1st.
And in international news from London, Pope Francis has joined pilgrims in St. Peter's Square to preside over the funeral of his predecessor, who died last week at the age of 95.
Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, was the center of attraction for the People's Democratic Party's G5 governors and supporters of the party as Governor Makinde flagged off his re-election campaign. The rally was greeted by a mammoth crowd at the historic Makinde Hall, where the governors of Rivers, Benue, Abia and Enugu states asking the people to elect Governor Makinde for a second term, so the state can witness more growth. Also in attendance were former governors of the party from the southwest who made the same request of the people. Meanwhile, many who had looked forward to the G5 governors announcing the presidential candidate of choice will now have to wait another day, as no such announcement was made.
The iconic Mapo Hall hosts an impressive crowd of PDP supporters. Colleagues of Governor Makinde from the Integrity Group, also known as G5, are adorned in colorful attires in the mood of the day. One after the other, the visiting governors take turns to address the crowd. Governor Samuel Otom leads the group and speaks about Governor Makinde's mandate and the commitments they all have to the PDP.
As we have seen today, and we believe that 2023, Oyo will deliver Sheikh Makinde back to Government House.
On their part, the governors of Abia and Enugu State reiterate the need to re-elect Governor Makinde.
I am a second-term governor. I'm by the special grace of God and with your support, Sheikh Makinde will serve from May 2023 to May 2027. Sheikh Makinde is the youth leader of G5. And he represents our vision for a better Nigeria.
For Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, there is no need to market Governor Makinde, as the people can testify to his good works in the state.
You already know that Sheikh Makinde has done well since she gave him the mandate in 2019. And therefore, the only way we can appreciate more, that Oyo will benefit more, is for him to go back and complete the good work he has started.
Governor Makinde, on his part, lists some projects undertaken by his administration to develop the state, while promising to do more if re-elected.
Under Omitutu 1.0, I promise a government that will put the people of Oyo State first. And our decisions has always taken the people of Oyo State first. Now it is time to upgrade. It is time for Omitutu 2.0.
Highlight of the event was the presentation of party flags to all the candidates of the party to signal the commencement of active campaigns as the PDP looks forward to winning all positions being contested in the state.
Now, as the nation continues its countdown to the big one, that's the February 25th presidential election, legal luminary and elder statesman Chief Afe Babalola says he is worried that the election will be won by the highest spender and not necessarily the most qualified candidate. The senior advocate of Nigeria also believes that conducting this year's election under the current constitution will only reproduce those who have brought Nigeria to its bad state. He made his views known at a media briefing in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, where he noted that former President Olusegun Obasanjo may not have factored in the role money will play in the coming elections while endorsing the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi.
He is exercising his right to follow whoever he wanted to follow, but he was not thinking of the outcome, possible outcome of monetized election. Obasanjo has no money to give to Obi. It is not who can make a difference that will win this election. It is, I will repeat, it is not the person who had all that it takes, age, health, education, and patriotism, that will win the election. The winner of this election, and I can bet it, is going to be the person who has made money in this country. That's money who will win. It's going to be it is the person who has the money that will win. Go and put it down.
And out of the presidential campaigns proper, the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is asking Nigerians to shun ethnic and religious sentiments in choosing who to vote for in next month's presidential election. Mr. Obi, who was incidentally in Ekiti State to sell his agenda for Nigeria, rated himself as the most qualified for the top job because of his age, amongst other factors.
There's no road for young Akure. There's no road. Our youth here are unemployed. Here we are graduates. We don't have a means of livelihood. That is not what to solve. So no religion gives job. No, there's no road that bad. And they say religion will pass through it. So let nobody tell me about his religion. We want to secure and unite the country. Today, people are hungry. People are hungry in the country. They have no job. They don't know what to do. Our youth don't have job. Our youth are not doing anything. We have said what we want to do is to ensure that we move the country from consumption to I am from the southeast. If you say it is my tongue, I will claim it is our tongue. I'm not contesting based on tongue. Yes, sir. I'm contesting as a Nigerian who is the most qualified. So we decide to reject them and pleading for.
In an interview with Channels Television after the podium talks, the former Anambra State Governor, in reaction to the prediction by Chief Afe Babalola that the highest spender will win the election, in turn pleads with Nigerians to shame the money bags.
The youth, it says money bag have played a lot of role, but they brought us to the poverty. So it is time to reject them. I am pleading for Nigerians to reject them because they cannot continue. If they continue, we are going to be impoverished. That impoverished, look at, you can't drive from Adek to Akure because of money bags. Our children, look at the Kitty, a young state. What do you say? Most of the youth are unemployed because of money bags. You want them to continue? No. We don't want money back. We want to give the youth a job. We want to give them a future. We want the country to change.
Elsewhere, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Bola Tinubu, is promising to empower Nigerian youths to become employers of labor and captains of industry. Addressing party supporters at the University of Benin Sports Complex in the Edo State capital, the APC presidential candidate says Nigerians deserve leaders who will not use the nation's resources to empower their female friends. The former governor of Lagos State also reacted to the endorsement of the Labour Party's Peter Obi by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, saying a man who withheld the allocations of Lagos State as president cannot be trusted.
The campaign train of the All Progressives Congress makes a stopover in Benin City, the Edo State capital, as party supporters welcome the presidential candidate of the party to the state. A former governor of Edo State and senatorial candidate in the 2023 general elections addresses the crowd on the importance of the election and the qualities of Senator Bola Tinubu.
As he also said, he will fight unemployment. He will create job for the youth. And let me say, those jobs will not be created by miracles. There are no miracles in the life of nation states. What happens to a nation is the result of meticulous planning and the dogged commitment to transform plan to action.
The governor of Kano State lends his voice as he assures residents of the state of their commitment to ensure the victory of Senator Bola Tinubu at the polls.
The 19 northern states of Nigeria are committed to elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I say we don't trust them. Jagaban are the answer. Tinubu are the person we need.
Before addressing the crowd, the APC presidential candidate showcases his dancing skills. Amidst cheers from the crowd, the APC presidential candidate stresses the need for credible leaders who are capable of empowering Nigerians.
Did I consult you when I started paying WAEC fee for those poor parents? The Yaonibodi, the mama way they roast corn, the mama way they sell granite, and begin to become doctors, nurses, and engineers. They are today. That is the power of thinking and doing. That's why I say, elect me. If you want prosperity, elect me.
All things done and dusted, supporters make their way out of the sports complex as the APC flag bearer proceeds to another campaign engagement.
In part two, after the break, in continuation of our assessment of sectoral performance in 2022, tonight we shift focus to sports. But that's in a moment. Do stay with us.
This is what they call 21st century. When my customer say I want to use POS, I will just bring out my phone, open the application, use this, press this code. I don't have anyone that's using POS anymore.
Hey, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. G5 governors storm Ibadan for the kickoff of the state-level campaign of the PDP, urge voters to re-elect Governor Seyi Makinde but keep mum on their preferred presidential candidate in next month's election. Labour Party presidential candidate asks Nigerians to resist the influence of money and shun ethnic and religious sentiments in their choice of the nation's next president during his campaign in Ekiti State. APC presidential candidate Senator Bola Tinubu promises to empower youths in the country to become employers of labor, dismisses endorsement of Labour Party candidate by former President Obasanjo. And Pope Francis joins pilgrims in St. Peter's Square to preside over the funeral of his predecessor, who resigned from the papacy in 2013. To election management, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC says it will from tomorrow, Friday, January the 6th, commence the devolution of collection of permanent voters' cards to registration areas and electoral wards in accordance with the PVC's collection schedule. A statement issued by the Commissioner and Chairman of Voters Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, notes that the distribution of registration areas and wards will last from tomorrow to Sunday, January the 15th, before all uncollected cards will move back to local government offices of a commission where registrants can collect their cards up until January the 22nd. In a related development, Mr. Okoye also informs the public of the decision of INEC to set up its Situation Room and Collation Center for the 2023 presidential elections at the International Conference Center, Abuja. A 9-man committee chaired by Mrs. May Agbamuchimbu is to commence work immediately on the proposed venue for the collation of results. The National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, says it is commencing sensitization for all corps members participating as ad hoc staff in this year's general election. Addressing journalists during the 2023 Batch A pre-mobilization workshop in the nation's capital, the Acting Director General of the NYSC, Mrs. Christy Uba, disclosed that the Corps is working with security agencies and INEC to ensure the security and proper training of the Corps members. She also noted that the NYSC will no longer mobilize graduates from institutions that refuse to upload the correct data of their students.
NYSC have been enjoying effective support from all the security agencies. So the general election won't be different. This time around, with the usual support we've been enjoying, they will even, they will surpass what they have, the support they've been giving us, because this general election is very, very important, and we on our part as NYSC will sensitize and train the corps members that will volunteer to participate. With the NYSC integrated system, it's very, very easy to track institutions that do not comply with the laid down rules. Some of them, they will upload students that are yet to graduate. And once you are yet to graduate, you cannot be mobilized. The date of graduation will be tracked and you cannot be mobilized. And some of them, they mobilize, they want to do upload duplication by manipulating the records. And this on the portal, we track them. And when you continuously, because once we observe it, we inform the institution to be careful. But if they continuously do that, we block them, and we block them for two batches.
Well, sports in 2022 could be termed the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, the Super Eagles of Nigeria missed out on the world's biggest football showcase in Qatar, while the 9-time African champions, the Super Falcons, were denied a record 10th title at the African Women Cup of Nations. The nation, however, recorded some positives in track and field. Well, this next report takes a look at sports in 2022.
2022 was a busy year for Nigeria with lots of talking points. The year started with the Super Eagles of Nigeria failing to get past the round of 16 at the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon.
I would have expected that we will have built on our past performance. In the last 8 years, we have not won any African Cup of Nations, which is something that is really very, very depressing for us, considering our pedigree in football, even though our domestic football has not been that bright as one would have expected.
Well, a very good evening to you from Abuja. The Moshood Abiola National Stadium here is the scene.
2 months later, a bigger shocker.
Comes out to Partey, hits it well, it's gone in under the goalkeeper. And Thomas Partey gives Ghana the lead here.
The Super Eagles did not make it to the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
They have beaten their West African rivals Nigeria on away goals.
It's heartbreaking. Without even asking, it's heartbreaking, Stan. We have the players, we have the resources. I don't know, we should learn to do the right thing, put the right pegs in the right holes. We shouldn't be Senegal and the rest of them. I mean, no disrespect, but those countries shouldn't be there flying their flag. And I mean, what's there for a Nigerian young people like us and the old people are like teeming football fans? We're a football nation.
It's a painful thing because football is the opium of the people. And that's what we use to forget about whatever the country is going through and all that.
Moment where the Moroccans felt that Ayane could have given them
the Super Falcons also fell short of expectations at the Women African Cup of Nations, losing to Morocco in the semi-finals.
Can we just see with this one? So excited there to get a team to the final for the very first.
However, the Flamingos gave Nigerians something to cheer in football. The girls returned home with the bronze from the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India, the first medal for any women team from Nigeria at the tournament. The 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham goes into the history books as the most successful for Team Nigeria. The country finished with 12 gold, 9 silver and 14 bronze medals, a total of 35, all thanks to the exploits of the country's female athletes, winning all gold medals.
I think that the women in all ramifications have always been outstanding throughout, this year's in view. And I think that we must celebrate them. And of course, it's equally a challenge, to the men folk, because I guess there are too many other problems that the men are facing. But the women have really been very outstanding, and we say I'll give them a lot of credit, and that's very, very incredible.
Star girl Toby Amuson had a fantastic year. She broke the women's 100 meters hurdles world record at the World Athletics Championship, clocking 12.12 seconds.
Individual performances, Toby Amuson, Haruna Quadri, Brume, fantastic, fantastic individual performances. And that's not good enough for Nigeria. We haven't done as well as we should with the talent we have. It's been a bit disappointing. But we always seem to manage to get through.
Both administration also produced major talking points. The Ministry of Youth and Sports Development presented a 10-year football development master plan to President Muhammadu Buhari.
These are initiatives that, if you are not someone that appreciates building systems, you may find it as nothing. But they are something. They are something. And we only need to have the right people that will drive the implementation.
After several delays, the elective Congress of the Nigeria Football Federation was held and produced a new leadership. With the All Africa Games, the Women's FIFA World Cup, 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, the Men's Under-17 and Under-20 AFCON, and other international events all scheduled for the new year, will 2023 tell a better story?
Well, to discuss sports in 2022 further, we're now being joined on the news at 10 by a sports administrator right here in our Lagos studio, Mr. Yomi Kuku. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
You. It's my pleasure to be here.
I know for a lot of people, sports is usually very exciting, but for Nigeria, it was a mixed bag. For you, how would you rate sports in this past year?
Well, I think it's just been the same over the last 10 years, most especially when you look at the way the sector is being run, basically. And you have a comprehensive expectation of how this thing could go because we've got a talent, like everybody admits that. But we need to move away from that admittance and then move into the reality of knowing exactly how we want to pursue these opportunities that avails people on the street, most especially people who are vulnerable and who are from poor backgrounds, which basically they use sports as a means of escaping poverty. And then for people also in the middle class that can always leech onto sports, or let me say leverage on sports as an opportunity for employment and all that. But when you look at the whole thing and bring it into the knowledge, the fact that you have administrators who are the first major problem of sports in Nigeria, the performances are based on the fact that we don't have competence reigning supreme in that sector based on the way they administer sports in Nigeria. So you can always look back and say, what were the expectations? What are naturally the things that should have been coming our way, and what are we getting back in return? So when you put it together with the population that we have and the talent, you and I know very well where we are and where we were in 2022. And unfortunately, if the same thing is done for 2023, we're still going to be back talking about this same thing by this time next year as well. So for me, naturally, I do not see sports as being a success story in 2022. Because you can only point at individuals who were able to stand up and hold their heads, basically because they strived individually. Like Amusha, for instance, as world record holder, it's a Brumi, individual things, and then even all the players across in football and many other sports as well. And then you can also look at the Paralympians. Right. They chunk out medals every now and then, and you can't find them being competitive, season in, season out, or being given enough competition to reward and, entice them the more from what they're putting in. And most especially also to female athletes in Nigeria. So it cuts across. You can't see anything intentional directed at sports development in Nigeria and achieving the results.
And they say that you can't keep doing the same things and expect a different result.
Absolutely.
You talked about the Paralympics.
Yeah.
And you talked about the individual bright spots as well. Is there a lesson? Because for Paralympics, they're under some sort of administration as well, or administrators in this case. Yeah. So is it possible to take lessons from there and replicate it? Is that something we could do?
Well, that becomes very difficult to do because even at that, it is not intentional. There are no clear-cut strategy to it. Like I said in my earlier statement, which is that most of the time, these athletes actually go out of their way. They train very hard. If you go to the national stadium, you see the Paralympic athletes, they are striving very hard every day. They train, they put in a lot. And you would see that even some of them, you could see all the things they go through every now and then, but they don't just really get bothered about it. They just want to show that they're there and up and doing. Then again, to an extent too, the administrators in Paralympics, it's not that challenging as much, to be honest, because there's not much money in it. So you need to be actually interested. There's not much, funfair around it. You just achieve and then it goes low. But if you compare it to sports like football, athletics, and basketball, and you will see that the intensity of the contentions that they have when they're trying to go for elections and all that, it's always different. Because there, it's like the big ice, the big cake. So everybody goes in there. And everybody is quite aware that Nigerian sports administrators are just there for themselves. You could see it, you can feel it.
And that's a statement of fact for you.
Exactly. They're just there for themselves. When Nigerian teams don't qualify for international meets, they will lament, and everybody will lament just like any other thing. And they get onto the international meets, it's all about themselves. They show off themselves and all that. But majorly, if you come back to it, it has to do with also a political decision by this country not to make sports at the forefront of a policy.
Let's wind down in 30 seconds or less. 2023 looks like it's going to be a busy year. I imagine that we're taking all of those lessons. What will be your expectations for the year?
Well, my expectation is to depoliticize and disincentivize sports administration. If that happens, we'll be there. That means that if you're competent, you can find your way there. If you're not competent, you will not be able to find your way there. And then stop using that as a political compensation point. You compensate people who basically fail in politics whose tragic story starts and ends with politics, and then you transfer them onto the sports sector. And they get in there, the only thing on their head is there's politics. They'll bring in their people, and that's it.
I mean, for the love of sport, I do hope that all of these issues are resolved in the new year. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Yomi Kuku, Sports Administrator. Thank you for your time on the News at 10.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Still ahead on the News at 10, Nigeria's central bank says it is working on a policy framework to regulate cryptocurrencies transactions in the country. But that's some business news. To join us again. Well, let's switch gears now on the News at 10 and head over to our Abuja studio where Linda Akigbe is sitting by with more. I imagine that the focus first is on the civil service, Linda.
Yes, it is. Indeed, the NFIU is saying that it's 3 years jail term for government officials who make cash withdrawals from all federal, state and local government public accounts effective from March 1st this year. Now, this is according to the Director General of the NFIU, Mr. Modibo Tuko, who told journalists at a news conference in Abuja that the agency will trigger investigation processes on any office holder who engages in cash transactions on public accounts before the end of February this year. He says this is a part of the move to curb financial corruption in public offices.
When we compiled the cash withdrawals over a period of time, precisely from 2015 to date, we discovered that state governments have withdrawn over 701 billion in cash, with some states withdrawing up to 24 billion naira. And then we also discovered that the federal government withdrew in cash up to 225 billion, while the local governments withdrew up to 156 billion. So if we are to apply the law here, all the public servants involved in these withdrawals are entitled to 3 years imprisonment. That's what the law said. Now, it became necessary for us to direct and order the financial institutions to stop completely cash withdrawal from public accounts. We have issued an advisory to all the governors and all the local government chairmen and all the MDs in the federal government we give them between now and 1st of March 2023 to put all facilities in place to operationalize the guidelines. So what is the bottom line? Is that on the 1st of March, if there is cash withdrawal from a government account of even if it is 1 naira, we are going to trigger off money laundering and corruption investigation anywhere at all. Even if there are special needs to withdraw cash from any public account anywhere, that will have to get a presidential approval.
Some Imo State indigenes across party lines who say they're convinced by Governor Hope Uzodinma's achievements in the last 3 years of his administration have unanimously resolved to support him for re-election in the November 2023 governorship election in the state. This resolution was made at the 7th stakeholders meeting organized by the Imo State government at the NDDC Kanu Square in Uri, Imo State capital.
Your Excellency, our Governor...
It's the 7th edition of the Hope Uzodinma Administration Stakeholders Meeting holding at the Rear Admiral Ndubuisi Kanu Square in Owerri, the Imo State capital.
We have done a good job of recognizing
Indigents of the state from all sectors fill the venue as Governor Hope Uzodinma mounts the podium. The governor goes on to speak on his achievements in some areas, including infrastructure, health, and human capital development.
improvement in the healthcare delivery is an important measure of development. Us, working through the Ministry of Health, our administration has implemented a number of programs that achieve the improved healthcare delivery for the people of the state. Our priority is to expand wealth creation through the construction of massive rural road infrastructure and by paying more attention to the growth of agriculture
development of education and transportation, among other sectors. We also intend to expand wealth through a variety of massive youth empowerment. Youth empowerment, which we have taken very seriously, has also been provided sufficiently for in the 2023 budget.
While also speaking on his plans for the state in 2023, he says the government, in partnership with security operatives, are better equipped to tackle the security challenges.
The area of security equipment and the logistics deployed to fight insecurity in Imo State is not sufficient. In fact, the Inspector General of Police was full of praises when he came here to receive and commission state-of-the-art armored personnel carriers. So this administration will continue to assist the security agencies to discharge their patriotic duties. For those who have paid the supreme price, their families will never be alone.
Participants at the event, the Imo State Elders Council, commend the state governor as they move a motion to support his second-term ambition.
I'm addressing you here as the chairman of Council of Elders of Ndiwo worldwide.
2023 is indeed an election year, and Imo residents will expect to see the security situation greatly improved to allow programs and policies of the Uzodimma administration thrive across the state.
The governor of Imo State.
To the rather knotty matter of constitution amendment, the chairman of the National Assembly Constitution Review Committee, Senator Ovie Omoagege, says that the issue of local government autonomy is one of the biggest challenges in the ongoing review of the 1999 Constitution. For Senator Omoagege, the State Houses of Assembly would have to take an independent stance rather than align with the positions of their state governors on the matter. He stated this to State House correspondents today after a private meeting with President Buhari in his office.
The bigger challenge we have, frankly, is not so much all of the bills, it's the bills dealing with the local government autonomy, both financial and admin. And those are the two critical issues. But the other bills, most of them have passed. You know, they passed, we've gotten more than the required number of Houses of Assembly for some of those bills. But what matters to us, which is a priority to us, which is a big priority of Mr. President, you know, is the issue of the local government autonomy. And that's where we're having challenges. And that is because of the position of some of the governors, you know, who believe that they should not be in support of this, but my personal view, not speaking for the National Assembly as a whole, my personal view, it's the obligation is actually imposed on the state houses of assembly and not on the governors. And I would have expected that the state houses will show some independence, you know, in making some of these decisions. But it does appear that, you know, and I can't fault them, you know, for working with their state governors, you know, in taking these positions. But we believe that with time, we'll be able to resolve this. The President of the Senate has reached out to some of the governors, most especially through my friend, the governor of Kaduna State, to reach out to his fellow governors, like Kaduna, for instance. Kaduna has already voted. Kaduna has voted and has transmitted. Of course, we won one, we lost one. But most of the others have voted for both admin autonomy and financial autonomy. So I'm confident. We're working. My brother, my colleague in the House, the Deputy Speaker, is also reaching out. We're confident that in no time, we should be able to get the requisite number. I pray for the local government autonomy, but like I said, that's not the only bill.
Away from the Constitution amendment, the new governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has assumed office at the Commission's headquarters in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. The board members, led by its chairman and former aide to President Buhari, Mrs. Loretta Onochie, arrived at the corporate headquarters of NDDC in Port Harcourt today. Now, speaking during a brief handover ceremony, the chairman, governing board of NDDC, says the board, in line with the directive of President Buhari, is out to reposition the agency to ensure that it works for the interest of people of the Niger Delta region. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Coyote.
Well, thanks a lot, Linda. And now to education. The recently launched university's curriculum, now known as the Core Curriculum Minimum Academic Standard by the National Universities Commission, will reposition Nigeria's university system and make it more globally competitive. Well, this is a view of the Vice-Chancellor of Caleb University, Professor Nusa Owens Ibie. He made the comments during a courtesy visit to Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos, where he met with the chairman and CEO of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, and select members of the management staff. He also gave some insight into Caleb University's drive to become one of the best in the country.
I want to see a progressive university system. Just in December, the National Universities Commission launched the Core Curriculum Minimum Academic Standard, which is the first time it's happening in a number of years, meaning that we are repositioning as a university system. So what we want to see in the new year is, a wholesale embrace of this new curriculum so that we can be more competitive globally. Caleb University is anchored on Christian principles, and we have our target is to produce, and we have been doing that, graduates of character and learning. And we have programs, and our focus is to give the very best, and we have evolved rapidly. I can tell you that the way we are going already is a destination of choice. So the way we are going, Caleb University is going to set a new, or chart a new path for university education in Nigeria.
And now for the latest business stories on the news at 10, here's Anne Owaodo.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with the Central Bank of Nigeria's plan to enact a regulatory policy framework on cryptocurrency transactions in the country. In its report on Nigeria's payment system Vision 2025, the CBN says it will partner with the Security and Exchange Commission for the potential implementation of an initial coin-based ICO-based investment solution or stable coins, which will serve as an alternative to the high volatility of popular cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. In 2021, the financial market regulator announced the restrictions on cryptocurrency payments in the banking system, insisting that digital currency was used for money laundering and terrorism. The incoming government will inherit about 77 trillion naira debts at the end of the current administration by the May this year, and that's according to the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha. She made this known in Abuja while responding to journalists at the public presentation and breakdown of the highlights of the 2023 Appropriation Act. The DMO boss explains that the move by the federal government to scrutinize loans, ways and means from the central bank will drive up the debt to that figure once it is passed by the National Assembly. Meanwhile, recent data released by the DMO puts Nigeria's public debts at 44.06 trillion naira as at the third quarter of 2022. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, has denied reports of its involvement in the alleged illegal exportation of 17.87 million barrels of crude oil without proper documentation from 2016 to 2020. In a statement released today by its spokesperson, Garbadin Mohammed, the NNPC says reports of outing the former Auditor General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, did mention that 32 oil marketing companies involved in the non-completion of the Nigeria export proceeds, but that does not in any way mean that the proceeds from the sale of the said crude were not repatriated into the coffers of the NNPC into the Federation account for the Federation-related barrels. The report also had accused some exporters of shipping crude without completing the required NXP forms. Let's head to the stock markets, where Nigeria's market recorded its first decline in the year, following impact of 8.26% drop in the price of telecom giant Airtel Africa. Let's find out the numbers for today.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, the bear shows up for the first time in 2023, and I guess this was expected with the rally we had at close of trade last year and the first 2 trading days of this year. Investors are expected to take profit, and that action shaved off 1.53% from the all-share index to close at 50,886.52. Market cap is down to about 27.7 trillion naira. Who did the investors feast on this time? They feasted on Airtel. Airtel traded a value of 301 million naira, lost 135 naira from its share price to close at 1,500. And we should expect this. The activity chart, bloody. All right, from the volume to the value and the deals. Well, it's just profit taking. I don't think this will continue, hopefully for investors' sake. But as the stock market reports, we'll do it again tomorrow. John McQuay is back to you.
And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Kayode.
Well, thanks, Anne. Ukrainians have scorned a proposal by Russian President Vladimir Putin for an Orthodox Christmas truce starting midday on Friday. Putin made the call following another from head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill of Moscow. Mr. Putin's order called on Ukraine to reciprocate so that large numbers of Orthodox believers could celebrate Christmas Eve on Friday and Christmas Day on Saturday. Here's Simon Pusey with more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Pope Francis has joined pilgrims in St. Peter's Square to preside over the funeral of his predecessor, who resigned from the papacy in 2013. The mood was solemn and subdued, with the dome of St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican shrouded in mist as the coffin containing Pope Benedict XVI's body was brought out and placed on the steps. There was applause from the faithful who had gathered for the funeral. Pope Francis then bid an emotional farewell to his predecessor after the funeral, giving the late Pope his final blessing. Benedict was then interred in a tomb beneath the basilica. The US House of Representatives has adjourned for a second straight night, unable to elect its main presiding officer.
No member-elect having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast, a speaker has not been elected.
The magic number to earn the top job is 218 votes, a majority of the 435-seat chamber. In 6 consecutive rounds of voting so far, Kevin McCarthy has not received the backing of more than 203 colleagues. A gang of right-wingers, dubbed the Never Kevin crew by US media, opposes the California congressman holding the speaker's gavel and has dug in its heels despite former President Donald Trump backing his nomination. British opposition leader Sir Keir Starmer has pledged to end what he says is the short-termism that has led to crises in the economy and public services. Starmer's party has a double-digit lead in the polls over the Conservatives. Speaking a day after Rishi Sunak outlined his priorities for the year, Sir Keir Starmer said that multiple crises impact Britain are a result of short-term sticking plaster politics.
You can't overstate how much a short-term mindset dominates Westminster. And from there, how it infects all the institutions which try and fail to run Britain from the centre. I call it sticking plaster politics. Sticking plaster politics. And in a kind of last-minute frenzy, it sometimes delivers relief. But the long-term cure, that always eludes us.
Security camera footage released from Hot Springs in Arkansas shows a tornado tearing through school grounds as lightning strikes and heavy rain falls. This is CCTV video from the Jesseville School District. According to local media reports, no severe injuries resulted from the tornado. However, several homes, local buildings and 7 buildings at the school were damaged. Shocking footage has emerged from India of 2 passengers almost being pulled under a moving train. CCTV from the platform shows a rail officer saving the people from falling under the moving train in Purnia. No one involved suffered any major injuries. Prince Harry has claimed his brother William physically attacked him, according to The Guardian newspaper, which says it has seen a copy of the Duke of Sussex's memoirs. The newspaper reported that the book sets out an argument between the pair over Prince Harry's wife Meghan. The Guardian quotes Harry as saying, "He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the ground." Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace have both said they will not comment. Prince Harry's memoirs will not be published until next Tuesday. And the German carmaker BMW has unveiled its brand new colour-changing concept car with a little help from a Hollywood superstar. Known as the iVision D, with D standing for Digital Emotional Experience, the car is able to transform into 32 different colours. And there to support the launch was the Hollywood star and former California governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Most of my movies, the machines were the enemy. But today, we found ways to use technology as an ally. The bottom line is technology can solve all of the biggest problems. It can change the world. And like you've just seen, it can be really, really fun.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Now, the Ministry of Sports and Youth Development has awarded the hosting rights for the 7th edition of the National Youth Games to Delta State. The Permanent Secretary, Ismail Abubakar, says Delta State will host the Games at the Dennis Osadebe University in Asaba from February the 8th to the 18th. He added that the National Youth Games has since inception become a veritable ground for harvesting the huge talents that abound within the country. And the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Ibrahim Gusau, has defended the abridged format of this season's Nigeria Premier Football League. The NFF boss says aligning the country's football calendar with that of the established leagues of the world is key to its development. The new Premier League season is expected to begin on January the 8th, with each of the 20 participating clubs getting a takeoff grant of 10 million naira each. In Spain, Barcelona forward Robert Lewandowski's 3-match ban has been upheld by Spain's sports court, and he will miss the visit to Atletico Madrid on Sunday in La Liga. Lewandowski was hit with a suspension after a red card against Osasuna in November last year before the World Cup break. The La Liga top scorer will also miss Barcelona's fixtures against Getafe and Girona. And in the English Premier League, Manchester City have beaten Chelsea 1-0 in a tense game at Stamford Bridge. Now, Algerian forward Riyad Mahrez scored the only goal in the 53rd minute as the champions reduced the gap on leaders Arsenal to 5 points. Chelsea remain on 10 points. And that's where we'll wrap it up on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you so very much for watching. It's back to Kaede with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Victor. And the main news again. The G5 governors today stormed the historic Makbo Hall in Ibadan for the kickoff of the state-level campaign of the PDP. They urged voters to re-elect Governor Seyi Makinde, but kept mum on their preferred presidential candidate in next month's election. Also today, Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi asked Nigerians to resist what he described as the influence of money and shun ethnic and religious sentiments in their choice of the nation's next president during his campaign in Ekiti State. An APC presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, today promised to empower youths in the country to become employers of labor and captains of industry, just as he dismissed the endorsement of the Labour Party candidate by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Good night.